All right, Shalom Israel, with the Israelite School University Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. We're not affiliated with any other Israelite group, nor any other Christian organization. So tonight's class, no sign Christ. All right. Okay, I see y'all. Shalom, young man, I see you in class. And shalom, Yahweh Shamal Atah, Bashim Yahweh Shai, the sister, I see you in class. Most High in Christ. So tonight's class is the Hebrew class. We're going to pick off where we left off, all right, when it comes into the future tense. All right, we left off in the future tense. But before we get started, of course, what we always do is we go over the alphabet. And the reason why we go over the alphabet, because it's so important to understand the pronunciations, all right, of the words that we want to use and how, and eventually get into sentence structure. So important. I mean, absolutely important. The first thing you want to do when learning any language is the alphabet. And the reason why our alphabet is so important to learn because our language is what's the word I'm looking for? I use the word every class. It's a consonant language. There we go. The word is consonant. It's a consonant language, meaning our words and our letters have similar sounds. Unlike any other alphabet, when you put certain letters next to each other, they make different sounds. That's not how it's done here. All right. In our language, they create similar sounds. All right. Meaning our alphabet is going to have a similar sound. And the words that we create are going to have a similar sound. And eventually, the sentences we create are going to have a similar sound. All right. And I want y'all to pay very close attention to that. All right. Because that's what's going to help you. That's what's going to help us learn this language. And we're going to be able to understand it even more than we know now. All right. So this is more so like the advanced lesson. We're also going to go through the fundamentals before we double back to writing in the future tense and knowing which each conjugation is. All right. That's something important to understand too. So the first letter you have here is I. You have your I in the Syrian, and you have your I in the ancient. You have your Ba in the Syrian, and you have your Ba in the ancient. You have your Ga in the Syrian, and you have your Ga in the ancient. You have your Da in the Syrian, and you have your Da in the ancient. Now you guys kind of hear now how it has a very similar sound. Ah, ba, ga, da, like that's consonants, right? That's why our language is a consonant language. All right. Here's your ha in the Syrian, and then your ha in the ancient. Got your what in the Syrian, and you got your what in the ancient. You got your za. You got your za in the Syrian, and your za in the ancient. Here we go. You got your cha in the Syrian, and you have your cha in the ancient. You got your ta in the Syrian, and you got your ta in the ancient. You got your ya in the Assyrian. You got your ya in the ancient. You got your ka in the Assyrian, and you got your ka in the ancient. Now focus on that ka in the Assyrian, right? I want you to pay attention to that right there. You see how it has an arrow? That's the ka that you'll find at the end of a word. Like that's how you know a word ends with ka, or whatever word's being used, that's a ka at the end of it. You're not going to see that ka anywhere else but at the end of a word, all right? Here you have is your la. You have your la in the Assyrian, then you have your la in the ancient. Next you have your ma. You have your ma in the Assyrian, and you have your ma in the ancient. Next we have is your na. You have your na in the Assyrian, and you have your na in the ancient. Now, just like the ma, here's the na. All right, you see the pattern, you see where that arrow is? That's the na that you're going to find at the end of a word. Like that's how you know that word ends with the letter na, or whatever it is, it ends with na. All right. Now you have the letter sa. That's the letter sa. All right. That's your sa in the Assyrian. That's your sa in the ancient. Here's the letter I. This is your letter I. This is so this is the letter I, right? That's your I in the Assyrian. That's your I in the ancient. Now you're probably wondering why does it sound different than the rest of the words? Well, the letter I is actually a very old letter, all right, and it's found in most languages now. But it comes from the Hebrew, and it literally comes from your eye itself. So, like it comes from your eye itself. That's why when you look at the ancient, it's circular, right? Because it's supposed to resemble your eye. Before our language was characteristic, it was symbolic. Well, okay, do I want to say symbolic? Before it was character based, it was symbol based. All right, we picture graphic is what I'm looking for. The word I'm looking for is picture graphic, meaning we drew pictures to represent our letters, and then over time it became characteristic. So these characters that you see are now our letters. Okay, so that's why when you see the ancient in a circular, it represents the letter I. All right. It's pronounced as I. Now the next letter you see here is your Pa. This is your Pa in the Assyrian, and that's your Pa in the ancient. Once again, that Pa that you see, that's found at the end of a word. So now you know the word ends with Pa when you see that. These are very important details that we want to pay attention to. If we don't pay attention to these small details, you can easily pronounce a word wrong. Easily. And pronouncing a word wrong is very serious in the Hebrew because you could easily be saying another word. Just that one letter makes a difference in what word you're trying to say. All right. So you want to play, like an example, Barak. All right. If you spell Barak with a K or you spell Barak with a Kwa, right? Those two words, they sound similar and they sound the same, but they mean two different things. So you want to pay very close attention to the alphabet and to our letters when it comes to reading and pronouncing and writing these words. Barak with a K at the end means bless. Barak with a Kwa at the end means lightning. Two different meanings. Sound the same, spelled differently, and mean damn near the complete opposite of each other. All right? So pay attention to that. You have your tazah. You have your tazah. All right, your tazah in the Syrian and your tazah in the ancient. Here you have your kwa in the Syrian and your kwa in the ancient. Next you have your ra. You have your ra in the Syrian, then you have your ra in the ancient. All right. Next Next is we have your Shah. You have your Shah in the Syrian. Then you have your Shah in the ancient. Next, you have your Tha. You have your Tha in the Syrian. Then you have your Tha in the ancient. All right. So now, since we went over the alphabet, Shalom, Shalom, true. I see you. Yahabashim Yashabakatah. So now to go over the alphabet, we just got finished going over the alphabet. So now what we want to do is go over our fundamentals. All right. We're going to quickly go over our fundamentals when it comes to learning sentence structure, because we're getting into tenses. We went over the past tense. Salaki, we went over the present tense. We're going over the future tense. And so now we're going to eventually go over the past tense. And we're going to reiterate these lessons. And we're just going to expand and expand and expand and grow and grow and grow so we can be able to structure sentences properly. Everything is all about memorization. The more you read it, the more you study it, the more you speak it, the better you'll be off. The more words you know, the more words you study, the better you're going to be off. And so we're going to go to subject pronouns. And the reason why we're going to touch on subject pronouns, anybody know why subject pronouns are important when it comes to conjugating verbs? You conjugate verbs, right? In the present, past, and future tense. So what can anybody answer me that? Why are subject pronouns so important when it comes to conjugating verbs in the present, past, and future? Does anybody remember why conjugating verbs are important? Why subject pronouns are important when it comes to conjugating these verbs in each tense? Does anybody remember? Anybody want to give it a shot? Why are subject pronouns so important when it comes to conjugating verbs in the past, present, and future? Why you guys give me that? We're going to go over the subject pronouns. So your first subject pronoun that you see right here is anya. Anya meaning I or I am. All right. So within a sentence, if you want to say I or I am in conjunction with some verb that you're trying to conjugate, whatever the case may be, this is how you would say anya, meaning I or I am. Now these are fundamentals that you need to know. Like this is something you need to memorize. This is something you need to know this is what you need to memorize when it comes to sentence structure. All right. When it comes to sentence structure, this is something to memorize. All right. You have atha. This is your atha in the ancient. That's your atha in the Assyrian. And your atha meaning you. So you as a subject pronoun is atha. Next is you have hawa. 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 So to your right is your hawa in the ancient. To your left is your hawa in the Assyrian. Hawa. Hawa. Hawa meaning he. He as a subject pronoun. Next is what you have is your hayya. Your hayya. 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 All right. Hayya. That's personally how I pronounce it. Hayya. 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 All right. Hayya. Hayya. So to your right you have your hayya in the ancient, and to the left you have hayya in the Syrian. I pronounce it as hayya. 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 That's how I pronounce it. Hayya is she. All right. It's she. All right. That's the subject pronoun for she. Haya. So you have hawa, which is he. Haya, which is she. Haya. 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 All right. Next you have is your anak nawa. Anak nawa. Your anak nawa. Make sure you guys are putting this into your notes as well. Don't forget to put these things in your notes. So you have your anak nawa. Anak nawa. To your right is your anak nawa in the ancient. To your left is your anak nawa in the Assyrian. Your anak nawa meaning we. All right. Your anak nawa meaning we. That's how you put it together. We. Anak nawa. Anak nawa. Anak nawa meaning we. So the subject pronoun we is anak nawa in the Hebrew. Don't forget to put your name, city, and state as well. Next, what we have is a thumb. A thumb. You have your to the right, you have your thumb in the Syrian. To your left, you have a thumb. You have your thumb in the ancient. To your right, you have your thumb. All right, in the Syrian to your left. A thumb is how you would say you plural in the masculine tense, or you all, or y'all. You plural, you all, y'all, whichever the case may be. In the masculine tense, in the masculine form, or the position of authority form, it's a thumb, a thumb, a thumb, a thumb. All right. Next you have is your athon. Next is you have your athon. So you have your athon in the ancient to your right. You have your athon in the Assyrian to your left. Athon. Athon is you plural, or you all, or y'all in the feminine tense. Right? In the feminine tense, it will be athon. Athon. For you plural, y'all, you all, whatever the case may be. Salaki. Next is you have your ham. You have your ham. So to the right, you have your ham in the ancient. To your left, you have your ham in the Assyrian. And ham is they, masculine. They in the masculine form. So they is a subject pronoun, and it's pronounced ham. All right. We want to make sure we're pronouncing these words correctly. Make sure you guys are putting this into your notes and keep rereading it. Reread it over and over and over and over and over again. Reread it. Han. Next you have your Han. Your Han in the feminine. Then you have your Han. All right. Your Han is feminine for they. You have your Han in the ancient to your right. You have your Han in the Assyrian to your left. It's pronounced as Han. Han meaning they in the feminine. Now, I see that nobody answered, probably because y'all may be driving or at your slaveries, whatever the case may be. So I give it to y'all for time's sake. The reason why subject pronouns, and I'm sure y'all knew the answer too. The reason why subject pronouns are so important because you are not going to know how to conjugate the verb unless you have the subject pronoun. It won't happen. If you don't know what subject pronoun you are using, then you're not going to know how to conjugate that verb. You're not going to know how to do it. You're not going to know how to put a Y here when it's necessary, put a here when it's necessary. You're not going to know how to do it. And the reason why you want to know how to do it because you're structuring sentences. You want to make sure you are grammatically, you want to make sure you are grammatically structuring these sentences correctly. You're going to have to do it. I'm a stickler about it. So if I hear that you're not, if I hear you're not grammatically structuring your sentences correctly, I'm gonna check you on it out of brotherhood and sisterhood. Now, with that being said, does that mean I'm trying to cuss you out or something because you're not saying a word right? No, I'm gonna just tell you like, hey, it's actually pronounced like this, or this is how you actually say it because this is the proper way to say it. We want to make sure we get used to saying things properly before we start adding our own twang and slang to it. Everybody understand? All right. We can add our own twang and slang to it later. All right. And also depending where you're from, you may have a different dialect and a different spin on the certain words you're trying to say in the Hebrew, and that's perfectly fine too. But I'm talking about grammatically structuring those sentences. And don't be afraid to sound all slow when you're speaking these words. Don't try to go so fast at first. Practice on saying things slowly. All right? That's what's going to help you. Salakia. So now, let's talk about possessive pronouns. So now you have something called possessive pronouns. Your possessive pronouns right here or ya. You see the ya? Ya is my. That's the ya in the Syrian. That's the ya in the ancient. Now remember, possessive pronouns will always be at the end of a noun. So possessive pronouns will always be used in conjunction with nouns. Don't get them confused with object pronouns, because object pronouns and possessive pronouns will look very similar. And we're going to get into using object pronouns, and I'm going to explain the difference between an object pronoun and a possessive pronoun later into the lesson. But that's your ya in the Syrian, that's your ya in the ancient, and ya is my. So when you usually see a ya at the end of a noun or a ya at the end of a verb, also like when you usually see a ya at the end of a noun, that's usually a possessive pronoun in most cases. Now it can be just grammar in general, but grammatically speaking, is usually like a possessive pronoun being used. Okay, in retrospect, in most cases, it's usually a possessive pronoun. Now, the way we write isn't how we speak either. So don't try to speak. So when you read the Hebrew in the Bible, okay, that's not necessarily how we speak. You know, have you guys ever heard of you never speak how you write, or you don't speak how you write, or hopefully I'm saying that right. You don't write how you speak. Salaki, I have it backwards. You don't write how you speak. Salaki on that. Well, same thing in Hebrew. The way we write in Hebrew isn't the way we speak, right? And the way we speak isn't how we write. So keep that in mind. So biblical Hebrew is how Hebrew is written, and it has like all grammatical texts and tenses and all that kind of stuff in it. And there's certain letters put in different places. You're gonna be like, well, I don't remember this. I don't remember that. What is that? What is that? What is that? Some of that is just grammar itself. All right. But how we speak, all right, you'll put a yeah behind the noun, and I'll know you're saying this is my car, my house, my TV, my computer, my cup, my table, my whatever the case may be. All right. So that's yeah, meaning my. You have your ka, which means your. All right. Remember, possessive pronouns will always be at the end of a noun. You're never going to see a possessive pronoun, all right, used in conjunction with anything else. So if you see this at the end of a noun, you may want to do research so you know that it's a possessive pronoun. Like I said, in most cases, it will be a possessive pronoun, because that's exactly how we use it. That's exactly how we're going to talk with it, all right? So you got your ka, which is your. You got your wa, which is his. Wa, which is his. You got your ha, which is hers. Your ha, which is hers. You got your nawa, which is our. All right? You got your nawa, which is our. All right? Yes. Hold on. 1 second. All right, so lock you about that. So what we have is your calm. You have your calm in the Syrian, your calm in the ancient, meaning y'all in the masculine tense. I think I went too far. I think I left off on ha, which is hers. And then you have your nawa. Your nawa meaning our. All right, your nawa meaning our. All right. So nawa is our car, our house, our TV, our whatever the case may be. All right. You know, the bara nawa, our phone. All right. Ra'ad the ba nawa, our TV. All right. Kam meaning y'all. Kam meaning y'all in the masculine tense. Kam meaning y'all in the masculine tense. All right. So that's y'all car. All right. So marakab come. I just said that's y'all car. For an example. Khan. Right. You have Khan, which is y'all in the feminine tense. So lock you. Khan. So now when you see Khan at the end of a noun, right, that's how you know it's referring to y'all in the feminine tense. Now, if you see Khan by itself, that means it's saying the word yes. All right. Sometimes you'll see kakan, which means yeah, yay, or yes, but it comes from Khan. But this Khan is going to be attached to a noun. All right. And that's how you're going to know that it's y'all in the feminine tense. All right. You have your ma. You have your ma. Right. Your ma meaning there. Your ma meaning there. Then you have your na. Your na meaning there, but in the feminine. All right. Next we have is object pronouns. Now you have object pronouns. Let me change this sentence. And then I'm going to change it all the way through. Used in conjunction with verbs. All right. And I'm going to change that sentence all the way through for a reason. Now, why did I do that? And the reason why I'm going to do that is because object pronouns can also be used as direct objects. And because they're direct objects, you have to use ath. All right, you have to use the word or the phrase ath or the word ath, however you want to say it. It's not an actual word, so let's say the phrase ath in order to get your point across. All right, so object pronouns, ya meaning me. Remember, object pronouns will always be used in conjunction with verbs. You got your ka. So you got your ka. All right, so lock it. So we back. So you got your ka, which is your. Remember, ka, object pronouns will always be used in conjunction with verbs. You got your wa. Your wa is him. So your wa is him. Next is you have your ha. Your ha is her. So your ha is her. You got your nawa. Your nawa is us. You got your kam. Yeah, because that's what I wanted to do. Your kam, meaning you all, y'all, you plural in the masculine tense. Kam, kam, kam. You have kan, all right, kan, which is y'all, you all, or you plural in the feminine tense. All right, kan. Con. Now don't forget to put this into your notes. All right, you want to study these things. Remember it all. You have ma. You have ma, which is them. Ma, which is them. Ma meaning them in the masculine tense. So now you have na, which is them, but in the feminine tense. Now remember, keep in mind, remember that this is written in red for a reason. Object pronouns will always be used in conjunction with verbs. So keep in mind, when you see these object pronouns, they're always going to be used in conjunction with verbs. Now, why am I now specifying in conjunction with verbs? I wanted to reword that because you're not necessarily going to find these object pronouns all the time directly at the end of a noun. You're going to find them at the end of "ah." All right, you're going to find them at the end of "ah" because an object pronoun or pronouns in general can be labeled as direct objects. And a direct object is something that you'll identify within a sentence itself. So when you're using "ah," which is a fundamental, and we are going over fundamentals for sentence structure. All right, we got to know our fundamentals. All right. Let's go to "ah." So now you have "ah." Here we go. It's about to be a game changer for y'all. So you have "ah." To your right is your "ah" in the Syrian. To your left is your "ah" in the ancient. And so now the title, of course, says how to use "ah." Well, here we go. "Ah" is used in conjunction with direct objects. All right. Examples: personal pronouns. So a personal pronoun is an object pronoun. Examples of personal pronouns: me, you, him, her, things like that. Us. These are examples of personal pronouns, which was just a list of object pronouns that we just went over. "Ah" will always be before the direct object no matter what. So meaning whatever direct object that you see, "ah" is going to come before it. Now keep in mind, Hebrew is written from right to left. Hebrew is written from right to left. So you want to constantly keep that in mind. So meaning the "ah" is going to come to the right, and then to the left of it is going to be the personal pronoun or the whatever, the rock, the car, the house, the radio, the whatever. All right, that "the" meaning the whatever, the rock, the car, the house, or the house, the rock, the car, you guys name it. Those are examples of object pronouns. That's an example of direct objects within a sentence. And so now when I said what I said, personal pronouns with "ah," that's why I said you want to know your object pronouns so you can understand when you're structuring sentences correctly. You can do it correctly. You're going to have to use af. And you see how af has a y in between it? That's how it's going to look. Afya, afka, afwa, afha. You see how it's coming to the, well, this is written in the English, so it's coming to the right of it. But if this was written in Hebrew, this ya would be on the other side. It would be to the left of it with our actual language script. So afya, afka, afwa, afha, afnawa. See, me, you, him, her, us. Afkam, afkan, afma, afna. You plural masculine, you plural feminine, them masculine, them in the feminine. You guys get my point? So that's why in object pronouns, I say it will be used in conjunction with verbs because these right here are going to be used in conjunction with a verb. Let's say you'll say dabar afkam or dabar afkan or dabar afya, dabar afka, whatever the case may be, meaning spoke to me. You know, well, so like I can't say that. You spoke to me can easily be dabar laya. So I can't say that. But in a nutshell, this is how it would be. So now we're going to start where we left off. So now what we're going to do, this is ata in the masculine tense, in the future tense, and also in the masculine. So now we're going to do ata, all right, but in the feminine, it's going to be future tense feminine. All right, future tense feminine. So now in this case, right, we can drop that ha. And the reason why we can drop that ha, does anybody know why we can drop that ha in this case? Does anybody know why we can drop that ha? Can anybody remember why? I'm kind of gonna write it to give y'all a hint. But I want y'all to still tell me, why am I allowed to drop that ya? I mean that ha at the end. So now, anybody answer my question? Y'all might be slaving, so not be able to. But now the reason why we can drop that ha, right, is because it's an unspoken rule that if you're adding a letter at the end of something, it's going to sound the same. So you have bana in the Hebrew meaning to build. Bana meaning to build. Now to kind of backtrack, when it comes to conjugations, right? A conjugation is a change of the verb, meaning the verb itself is going to change a little. Now, in our language, let me make it make sense. It's going to sound similar, but with added characters, or maybe even less characters. It just depends on the conjugation, right? Or it could stay the same. It just depends on the conjugation. Now, remember, all conjugations are based off of your subject pronoun. You're not going to know how to conjugate any verbs unless you know the subject pronoun. The subject pronoun like ata meaning you, anak nawa meaning we. All right, you guys get the point. Like these are very key factors to understand. And so now, when it comes to the verb bana meaning to build, bana is spelled with a ba, a na, and a ha. It is pronounced as bana, bana. Now, the unspoken rule is if you see that ha at the end of bana, but you're adding an extra character or letter in this case, all right, which is grammar. If you're adding grammar to the verb, which is either a letter or a character to the verb, especially if it's at the end next to the ha, you can drop the ha. It's going to sound the same. All right, ta banaya, ta banaya. It's still going to sound like you're saying banaya, but it's still banaya. Da banaya. You see how there's no real difference? Da banaya, da banaya. Da banaya, da banaya. Da banaya, da banaya. Da banaya, da banaya. I'm purposely trying to put emphasis so you guys could hear the difference between dropping the ha and not dropping the ha. So if I keep the ha, it will be pronounced as Dabanaya, Dabanaya, Dabana, Dabanaya, Dabanaya. All right, Dabanaya. If I drop the ha, Dabanaya, 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 Dabanaya. Now they sound similar, but they sound similar, but it is different, but they sound similar. And that's why that unspoken rule exists. Because it just sounds the same. It sounds very similar. No one's really going to harp on the difference. It doesn't change the word. You guys get my point? It doesn't change the word. Now, when I mean it doesn't change the word, as in it's still going to have that ha sound almost that we still know that you're saying bana meaning to build, but it's conjugated in the future tense. So how you conjugate bana in the future tense, you put a tha in the feminine in the future tense, but in the feminine, you put a tha in front of bana, and you put the ya at the end of bana, and it's pronounced tabanaya, tabanaya. So tabanaya, ata tabanaya, whatever the case may be, you build a house, or you will build a house. So if we let's get that. So now let's say we want to write, it's clearing it, right? Perfect. So let's get ata So what we have is ata. So now we have ata. Let's get ta. Ba. But now this is in the feminine. But this is an example. This is just an example, all right? Ta ba na. Tabanaya. So ata, tabanaya. Now, real quick, I'm gonna get something weird because we're gonna get some practice. We're gonna get some practice in using ah. But before we do that, here's a fundamental trick. Here's some fundamentals on more sentence structure. These things are called Hebrew prefixes. Hebrew prefixes, meaning they go in front of something. They go in front of a word. They go in front of a noun. Usually they go in front of nouns. So you have ya. In this case, used in conjunction with verbs. When you see ya in front of a word, that word is usually a verb, okay? You have ha. You'll see a ha in front of a noun, meaning the. Ha means the. Ha means the or the. Ba means in. Ba means in. Wa means and. Wa means and. So when you see wa in front of a word, it means and. When you see ba in front of a word, it means in. When you see la in front of a word, or even in front of just a single letter, it means two. All right. If you see la in front of a word, it can mean for. Or even if a single letter, for you, to you, same thing. It means that. It means two or four. Ka, meaning like or as, meaning using it as a simile. So when you see ka in front of a word, like such and such, like whatever. Shall in front of a word, meaning who, which, call, sake. All right. Then you have ma, meaning from. That can literally mean from this place, or that ma in front of a word, meaning this word comes from the original word such and such. All right. And it changes the meaning of the word, but it still derives from somewhere. All right. And so I'll leave that up just for a little bit. I want y'all to kind of read over it, because then we're going to get back into our sentence structure. So now here we go. Let's get back to it. So far we have ata, tabanaya. Now what we're going to get course, it changes color. So now you got Ata, which is you. But remember, we're going to purposely make this the feminine tense because we know this is in the feminine. We're going to know that this is the feminine based off of the conjugation we just used. Then you have Da, Ba, Naya. Will. Will build. But once again, feminine. Then you have your Ah equals direct object indicator. Let me get that right. Direct object indicator. So now ob equals direct object indicator, meaning this indicates that there's a direct object within the sentence. So you got ha, which means the. So you have bayat, meaning house. So let's make sure everybody's following along. So I want you guys to pay very close attention to what's being put down. Now you guys can put this sentence for an example of how to use, all right, bana, it's like it conjugated in the future tense in the feminine form. So ata in this context is in the feminine tense. Ata, we're putting this sentence in the feminine tense. Ata meaning you. That's the subject pronoun. Now, because we know the subject pronoun and we know that this is in the feminine tense, now we know exactly how to conjugate the verb. You need to know the subject pronoun first, and then of course you yourself is going to have to know if you're going to put it in the masculine form or the feminine form. How do you know if you're going to be talking in the masculine form? This you has to be directed to a male. How do you know that this is going to be in the feminine form? Well, this you is being directed to a woman, all right? Or let's say you're just talking in general. This sentence is being directed to a brother. This sentence is being directed to a sister. That's how you know that you're going to be using the masculine tense to the feminine tense. But overall, it is the future tense. They're both combined, all right? In this case, the future tense has this. Sometimes the past will have it too. I want to say all the tenses actually have it. Okay, so keep that in mind. The present tense is just a little easier because it's still a y between it and maybe a ha at the end of the verb. But in the future tense, it's not so. So if you're looking at the screen in the future tense, all right, how do we know how do you know how to conjugate it? Well, it's based off the subject pronoun, but it's in the feminine tense. So now we know that in order to conjugate the verb bana, meaning to build, you have to put a ta in front of bana, and then you put a ya at the end of bana. And it's thabanaya. And it together is pronounced thabanaya. Thabanaya, meaning will build. So you will build. Right? So let's say you're talking to the sister, you're telling the sister that you will build. This is just an example. All right? So we can get used to whatever the case may be. You will build, Thabanaya, you will build. Then you have your af. Well, your af is a direct object indicator, right? Now, the reason why I wrote it like this, because I didn't have to use af, right? Because I could have easily said, and I'll explain that later. There is a way for me not to use af in this sentence, but because of how I wrote it and how I wanted to say it is why I used af. So af is a direct object indicator, meaning there is a direct object within the sentence. Now remember the rules of af. Let's go back to the rules of af real quick, and we're going to come right back to this. Remember the rules on af. We can't forget it. All right. Remember the rules on af. Sometimes you're going to be using af when you speak. So how to use af? Af is used in conjunction with direct objects, meaning if there's a direct object in that sentence, af has to be used. Examples, personal pronouns. So if there's a personal pronoun within that sentence, in most cases, you're going to be using af. Then you have the or the. If there's a the or the within that sentence, you're going to be using af. You're going to have to use af in conjunction. All right? You can't get away with it. The or the. The or the. Saying a, so for an example, a house is just a house. But the house or the house, this is talking about a specific house at this point. And that's when it becomes a direct object. For an example, this is just a cup. This is just a regular Joe Smo cup, right? But if I say the cup, if I say the cup or the cup, this cup has meaning now. This cup must be special. This cup is something. Does everybody get the point? I mean, this is important. This is we have to focus on. This is something specific. Maybe it could be something important. It could have meaning, or it could be something in particular, or specific. Whatever the case may be, that the in front of the cup gives it something. Now I gotta show. Oh, the cup, the cup. Oh, you want that cup? Because if you just say I want a cup, I could just grab you any kind of cup. Does anybody understand that? If I just say, hey, grab me a cup, I could just take you and give you any cup. But if I say grab me the cup, I'm talking about a specialized cup. It could be my favorite coffee mug. It could be my favorite drinking liquor glass. Whatever the case may be, there's some importance to it. You get my point? And that's, so now this cup becomes a direct object now because the cup. Okay? Does everybody follow? Hopefully I explained that well real quick on the go. All right, because this is not a off breakdown. So now when we go back to our sentence, let's get back to our sentence real quick. Salakia. So now, when you see off, that off is a direct object indicator, meaning there's a direct object somewhere. Now, what's the direct object? The direct object in the sentence is the house. Ha bayah. Ha meaning the. Remember, that's a prefix, meaning a prefix comes in front of the word. In this case, the word that the prefix comes in front of is bayah. So the prefix is ha. Ha, the prefix ha means the or the, however you want to say it. So the cup, or the house, the house. Of course, we're going to say the house. The house is more so like you're trying to be poetic, or you're speaking in a Shakespearean language, which would just mean old English. All right, old English type of language. All right, but I say the or the for a reason because, of course, we read the Bible, and when you read the Bible, you're going to see the. You're not always going to say the. All right, sometimes it'll say the book or the book, but it still means the same thing. One is just more old English. All right, and sometimes the can mean you. All right, I'm talking to thee, meaning you. All right, or the book, the book. Sometimes people say the book just to be poetic. By the way, it's just a poetic thing. All right. So the or the is similar, but the is more so poetic. But now, if you see the by itself, that could be you. Okay, in Shakespearean or Old English language. Allow me to expound on that so there's no confusion. So the book, or the house in this case, ha meaning the. Then you have bayat meaning house. So that's the object, not the object pronoun. That's the direct object. The house is the direct object. So now we know whoever this is, this sister is going to build, or will build, I should say, a specified house. Meaning this house is important. It's not just any house. Now, if I didn't want to use ah, what would I have to do? I would have to drop the ha in front of bayat, and I would just say ata dabanaya bayat, meaning she will build a house. But because I wanted to give you an example on how to use object, I'm about to say object pronouns. I'm sorry. Direct objects, or how to use I in the sentence. I wrote it like this purposely so you guys can see. All right. So I would say Ata da banaya av habaya. She will build the house. Ata da banaya av habaya. All right. Ata da banaya av habaya. Over time, you're going to be able to speak it just a little quicker. So Ata da banaya av habaya. Habaya. You kind of want to run into it. All right. If you want to kind of speak it a little fluently, you have to run into the next word. You have to run into it. Ata da banaya adabaya. It's almost like you're making a rhythm of it. It's like you're almost singing it or you're rapping it. You wanna flow. You want to flow with it. So you want to kind of flow with it. So ata da banaya adabaya. You see how with that flew? Our language is very poetic. All right. Our language is very slang. Our language has a rhythm to it. Our language is very poetic in order how to speak it fluently. Ata da banaya habaya. Ata da banaya atabaya. Habaya. You see how I'm saying that? There's a rhythm to it. You want to make a rhythm of it. You want to be poetic with it. You want to give it a flow. So you'll be able to speak it. Ata da banaya atabaya. She will build the house. Ata da banaya atabaya. Ata tabanaya at habaya. Ata tabanaya at habaya. Ata tabanaya at habaya. So ata tabanaya at habaya. You see how it flew? Ata tabanaya at habaya. Ata tabanaya at habaya. Ata tabanaya at habaya. Ata tabanaya at habaya. You want to let it flow. Let it flow. All right. Let it flow. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Let's get our next conjugation. Give me 1 second. We're going to do a whole new subject pronoun. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of that. Oh, that's being a nuisance. We'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of this. And then we're also going to get rid of this. Or that. All right. Let's get the drawing. Change that to blue. We were using blue the whole time. The reason why I try to use different colors is so we can all be on the same page. You guys can tell the difference between what I'm doing. So now we're going to put a ya here. Then we're going to put a ha right back here. And then we're going to put a ha right there. And then we're going to put hawa'a. That's what we're going to be using. So ha, ha, ha. That was a crooked line. I kind of want to redo it now because I did those other two so straight. That's better. Ha, wa, hawa'a. Now we know we're going to put a ha here. We're going to put a wa here. And then we're going to put an ah here. We're going to change this up and put a hawa'a. And then change this up. We're going to say he. Hawa'a means e. And here, no. We're going to put a ya here. A ya should be popping up there. Put a ya here. Put a ha there. All right, that's better. We're going to put a ya here. Let's just move that over a tad. And then we're going to change this up because now things are changing. Yabana. Yabana. I'll fix that in a second. Meaning he will build. He will build. Now here we go. Now what we have on the screen is Yabana. So we have Hawa'a meaning he. Hawa'a is the subject pronoun he. Now remember, this is the future tense. So because we're conjugating in the future tense, let's pay very close attention. So you have Hawa'a meaning he. That's the subject pronoun. Now we know the subject pronoun. Every conjugation is based off of the subject pronoun. Here you go. Like it. Yabana. Yabana, meaning he will build. He will build. So now that's how you would conjugate bana in the present tense. I mean, in the future tense, when using the subject pronoun hawa'a. Now, of course, in this case, it's not about masculine or feminine because he is already feminine. It's a pronoun. All right. It matters gender back here. All right. We're not like the rest of the world. So you have hawa'a yabana. Hawa'a yabana, meaning he will build. He will build. Hawa'a, hawa'a, hawa'a yabana, hawa'a yabana, hawa'a yabana. And so we want to repeat that. We're going to structure a sentence in next class about hawa'a yabana. Hawa'a yabana. Hawa'a yabana. Hawa'a yabana. All right? So make sure you guys put that into your notes. Give y'all some time to put it down. In 1 second. All right. So now it's pronounced Yabana. Hawa'a Yabana. All right. So with that, Israel, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under command of General Hunter. And we're not affiliated with any other Israelite group or any other Christian organization. All right. With that, I say Shalom, Israel.